Have you ever been somewhere and just felt, I don't know, a weight? A kind of sadness that doesn't seem like yours, a sense that something big happened there.
Oh, absolutely. Like the air itself feels heavy sometimes.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into a story like that, a century-old one from the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. It's stunningly beautiful up there, but it's also the scene of this mystery that, well, some people think still echoes today.
Right. And you shared that really compelling article with us, the one from Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, that's the one. It gets into a possible haunting at Big Moose Lake, and it's all tangled up with the really tragic story of Grace Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today basically is to unpack this old case, try to, separate the facts from any speculation and figure out why this story still grabs people.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how certain places just seem to hold on to these tragic events, like an imprint.
Totally. And this Unsolved Mysteries article, it really focuses on that intersection, the real historical crime and this possibility of a ghost, a lingering presence.
Exactly. It dives right in.
So it zeroes in on Covewood Lodge at Big Moose Lake. And it talks about this experience back in the summer of '88. This lodge employee, Rhonda Busala.
I remember reading that part.
She walks into the staff lodge and bam, just gets hit with this powerful feeling that someone else is there, even though she couldn't see anyone.
Yeah, that visceral sense. It's often the first thing people report in these situations, isn't it? That feeling.
It really is. That unseen presence thing, it pops up a lot in these kinds of accounts.
It does. It suggests maybe some people are just more tuned in somehow, beyond our usual senses.
Could be. But here's where it gets, well, even stranger. Rhonda's friends were outside.
Okay.
And they apparently saw something much more, solid.
They saw something?
Yeah, according to the article, all three of them saw what they thought was a ghost. Just for a few seconds. Then it faded. And get this, they all described the same figure.
Wow. Okay, multiple witnesses seeing the same thing visually.
Yeah.
That definitely takes it up a notch from just a feeling.
Right. It moves beyond just one person's feeling to, like, a shared visual experience. That's pretty compelling.
It really is. Makes you wonder about perception, what triggers something like that for a whole group.
And the local story, the article says, is that this ghost, it's Grace Brown.
Right. That connection is central.
So who was she? We need to go back to 1905, 1906. Grace Brown, she was young, just 19, working at the Gillette skirt factory in Cortland, New York.
And the article makes a point about her portrayal later, doesn't it?
Yeah, it mentions how Hollywood in A Place in the Sun kind of made her seem unattractive. But the reality, or at least how this article puts it, was different. She was described as naive and lovely. Big difference.
It really is. Shows how stories get twisted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Important to correct that image. See her as this, well, vulnerable young woman.
Definitely. And that vulnerability probably played into her relationship with Chester Gillette.
Ah, yes, the nephew.
The handsome and charming nephew of the factory owner.
Yeah.
He was apparently, quite the catch in town. Popular, athletic.
Right. But their relationship was complicated from the start.
Totally secret. He insisted on it. No chaperones, keep it quiet. Which, back then, that really risked her reputation.
Huge risk. That secrecy alone is a massive red flag, isn't it?
Absolutely. Says a lot about his priorities versus hers.
It really does. Suggests he cared more about his image than her well-being right from the beginning.
The article brings in an author, Craig Brandon, who suggests Grace probably saw Chester as, like, her ideal. First love, maybe. She was determined to make it work.
Understandable, if naive.
But for Chester, it seems like it was just a secret thing. He never took her out in public, never acknowledged her, but he was seen with wealthier women around town.
Ouch. So he's playing the field publicly while keeping her hidden.
Exactly. Her friends apparently tried to warn her, tell her what he was really like, but, well, first love can be blinding, I guess.
That dynamic, naivety versus manipulation, it's tragically timeless.
Yeah.
Her lack of experience probably made her an easier target for him.
And then, the situation gets much more serious.
She got pregnant.
Yeah. And in 1906, being an unwed mother, the social consequences were just devastating.
Absolutely catastrophic for a young woman, then.
So Grace is desperate. She needs to marry Chester, pins all her hopes on him. But he just keeps stalling, putting it off.
Delay tactics.
Yeah.
Leading her on.
Until finally, July 1906, he takes her away. Up to the Adirondacks, Big Moose Lake. But he tells her it's for their wedding or leading up to it.
Oh, wow. So under this completely false promise.
Yeah. A trip that was obviously not going to be a happy one.
Yeah.
That level of deception, knowing she's pregnant and desperate, it's chilling.
It really is. It shows such a cold, calculated cruelty. Seeing her pregnancy just as a problem he needed to get rid of.
So the article mentions they rent a rowboat at Big Moose Lake from a guy named Robert Morrison.
Okay.
Morrison expects them back for dinner. They don't show. He starts getting suspicious.
Good intuition.
Next morning, he's worried enough to organize a search party, and they find it. The grim discovery, the overturned rowboat,
And Grace.
her body a little ways away, just awful.
God. And Chester.
Police tracked him down just 2 days later, arrested him at a hotel nearby. He didn't exactly stick around.
No, sounds like he thought he could just walk away.
Yeah,
Morrison's quick thinking was key, though.
definitely. So Chester's initial reaction, he flat out denies even knowing Grace.
Denies knowing her after taking her on this trip.
Yeah. Then, when faced with the evidence, his story changes.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he claims she drowned herself, said she was despairing because he didn't love her anymore.
Oh, come on. That's a weak story.
Unsurprisingly, yeah, pretty much nobody bought it. He went on trial, got convicted, first-degree murder,
In the sentence.
electric chair. He was executed March 30th, 1908, so, the law had its say. Justice served in that sense.
Legally, yes. But clearly the story didn't end there for some people. Or maybe for Grace.
Exactly. Which brings us right back to the haunting, the mystery that lingers.
Right. The article mentions another encounter, doesn't it? After Rhonda's experience.
Yeah, just a few months later, this woman, Linda Lee Mackin, she's walking towards the lake carrying a flashlight. And the flashlight keeps dimming, acting weirdly. By the time she gets right to the water, it goes out completely.
That's odd. Electrical disturbances are sometimes reported in these situations.
Right, so she turns back, and that's when she has this experience she called awestruck. She felt this incredibly strong feeling of sadness, overwhelming sadness. And she was certain she'd encountered a ghost.
Wow. Again with the sadness. That seems to be the dominant feeling reported.
Absolutely, a presence just soaked in sorrow. And that flashlight thing adds another little layer of weirdness, doesn't it?
It really does. Mackin's story, with the tech issue beforehand, it adds texture. And that consistency, the sadness, it's striking. It lines up so perfectly, almost too perfectly, with Grace's story.
Yeah, like emotional residue, maybe. That idea that strong emotions can just stick to a place.
That's often how it's described in paranormal circles, yes. An imprint of intense emotion.
So the article wraps up that part by saying, over the years, sightings like these, feelings like these, they've continued. And the local belief is strong. Grace's spirit is still there, tethered to Big Moose Lake somehow. Can't find peace after being betrayed and killed like that.
Such a brutal end, especially from someone she loved and trusted.
Exactly. And, what I found really interesting was looking at the comments section on that online article. You shared some of those themes with us. It's like a window into how people connect with this story today.
Oh, yeah. The comments are fascinating. They show this deep well of empathy for Grace and, well, a lot of different theories about why she might still be there.
One of the biggest questions people kept asking was exactly that. Why? Why would she still be there? Why isn't she at peace?
Lots of speculation on that.
Yeah, some people wondered if maybe she doesn't even know she's passed away. Or maybe her sadness is still tied to losing her unborn baby. There's a real compassion there, trying to understand what she might be feeling.
It really speaks to that human desire for closure, doesn't it? Not just for us, but for people who suffered. The idea of a spirit being trapped usually means unfinished business or, like you said, unresolved pain. Focusing on her maybe not knowing or grieving her child makes it intensely personal.
Some commenters even wished a psychic could, talk to her, find out what's keeping her there, maybe help her move on.
A very common sentiment in these situations, seeking communication.
Others started drawing parallels, comparing her case to, like, Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick or Scott Peterson.
Ah, interesting comparisons. Why those?
Well, I guess the themes. Suspected foul play versus accident, maybe. Or the betrayal within a relationship, especially with Scott Peterson and the loss of a pregnant woman. People try to make sense of things by comparing them, right?
Exactly. Contextualizing. Using known stories to frame something unfamiliar or upsetting. The Peterson comparison especially resonates because of that specific shared tragedy.
There were also suggestions about needing a priest or some spiritual person to maybe bless the lake or her grave, offer prayers so she can finally rest.
Reflecting different beliefs about the afterlife and how to find peace after trauma. That desire for some kind of formal resolution, a spiritual mending.
One person even wondered if her ghost just acting sad or dimming lights is just her. A continuation of how she was, her suffering in life mirrored in death. It's a pretty poignant thought.
A powerful idea, that essence continuing, that the spectral presence reflects the human pain.
But then, interestingly, someone else asked, what more could she want? Chester was caught, he was executed, justice was done, right?
But does legal justice always equal emotional or spiritual peace? That's the question.
Exactly. It raises that whole complex issue. What is justice in a case like this? Does the legal outcome heal everything? Probably not, if that other comment about her sadness mirroring her life is anything to consider.
That contrast in the comments is telling. Some focus on the legal resolution, the retribution. Others connect more deeply with the victim's emotional state, the pain that might linger beyond any court verdict.
Right. And finally, it was good to see someone point out very clearly that the movie A Place in the Sun, it's fiction.
Crucial clarification.
Yeah, powerful movie, sure, but it's based on the story, not an accurate documentary of Grace's life or what happened. Important not to mix them up.
Absolutely vital. Remembering the real person, Grace Brown, and not letting the Hollywood version completely take over her actual story.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, we've walked through the hauntings people report at Big Moose Lake, Rhonda's feeling, her friends seeing something, Linda Macken's sad encounter and that weird flashlight thing.
And we revisited the core tragedy. Grace Brown's betrayal and murder by Chester Gillette. His trial, conviction, execution.
And this persistent local belief, this feeling that her spirit is somehow still connected to that lake.
And looking at those comments gave us a real peek into how people today still grapple with it all. The why, the sadness, the comparisons, the hopes for her peace. It shows how layered these tragedies are.
It really does. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? With the tragic facts, these eyewitness accounts, the strong emotional response even now. What do you make of these stories about Grace Brown's ghost? Is it collective memory? Just the power of a sad story echoing in a beautiful place?
Or could there be something more going on at Big Moose Lake?
Yeah. And what does it all tell us about how we understand justice or peace? Or just the long shadow that tragedy can cast?
It's a potent case, sitting right at that edge of known history and something else. Something mysterious about human experience, loss, and maybe what comes after. Makes you think about tragedy and its ripples.
Definitely. Now, if you want to dig even deeper into the Grace Brown story, we've put some links in the show notes. There's a short film by Don McElligott, resources from the Old Forge Library's Historical Society, even a forum where people still talk about the case.
And you could check out Theodore Dreiser's novel An American Tragedy, or the movie A Place in the Sun. Just keep in mind, like we said.
Right. Remember their fiction, inspired by her very real, very sad story. Worth exploring, but know the difference.